one of the things that you can do is, okay, your 5-year-old asks you where babies come from. Okay, how do you convey that message to a 5-year-old?
Create a funny story.
Read a funny story,
Yeah.
okay? I think as some of you guys are parents, some of you people here are parents, and have probably had to talk about those things with your kids, right? Some of you will be parents, and at some point your kids are going to ask you that question. Where did I come from, Mom? Okay? And you need to be able to explain that in a way that makes sense to the child. All right? Does anybody want to try to explain? I'm a 5-year-old child, and I'm asking where babies come from? Does anybody want to try?
From the belly.
From the belly, okay. All right. From the belly, okay. And sometimes, you know, parents they say, well, the stork brings the baby, okay? That's an easy way to get out of it, all right? But at any rate, these are the things that we try to do in public speaking. We try to tailor our message to the audience, the person that we're explaining things to. We have to use their vocabulary, okay? And of course, when we're dealing with people from a different culture, and again, this is cross-cultural communication, right? I'm an American. I don't speak Russian or Ukrainian very well at all. And English is not the primary language for most people in this room, except for, I think, Mike and myself, right? So we have to tailor our language to you guys, okay? Now, are you understanding everything I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Because I'm trying to slow my speech down, by the way. If you guys actually listen to me, about how many words a minute am I speaking right now? About how many words? Take a guess. Take a guess.
45.
45. 45 is too few.
100.
Too few.
120 maybe.
120 would be a little bit much. That's the way I normally would speak to Mike. And again, if you look at Ukrainian words, they're a little longer than American words, so Ukrainians probably speak fewer words per minute because your words have more syllables, all right? All right, but normally, an adult in America during a normal conversation would speak somewhere between 120 and 140 words a minute. Now, when I'm speaking to children, and I've interviewed hundreds of children, I will slow down my speech. I will use probably between 80 and 100 words per minute with a child that's, let's say, under the age of 10. With teenagers, you basically speak with them as they're adults, okay? About the same pace. But that's something that you have to keep in mind when you're speaking to a group that may not speak your language. You slow your speech down. And as I said, if you were to have a timer and count the words, it would probably be somewhere between 90 and 100 words a minute that I'm actually speaking. Okay? All right, so we have to be aware of our audience, what they need, what they want, and try to give it to them. Okay? We talked again about telling a story for maximum impact. In other words, when we tell a story, we want to leave the person with an impression that they will remember. Okay? Okay. And the last bullet would sort of answer your question that you had. We have to watch for nonverbal feedback, but we can't become too concerned with it. Okay? In every lecture I've given, there are people that seem to be falling asleep, and basically I let them sleep. Okay? It's my job to make sure they don't sleep, but if they are falling asleep in class, that's just the way it is. They're going to probably not do well on the exam. It's their responsibility to stay awake, okay? And how would you deal with that? How would anybody in this room deal with somebody that was sleeping in class? If they're a student in your classroom? Raising the voice? You raise your voice, okay. Does that mean they're going to automatically wake up? Okay. You could go over to them, you know, and I've done that a few times. I've actually gone over to them and whispered something in their ear. You know, I've done different things, but again, I don't know if there's a standard way to do it. In my university, when I was in university, if a student was sleeping, the professors would kick the person out of the class. And they probably suffer a severe penalty. But I'm maybe a little nicer guy, and I just allow my students to sort of sleep. But you know, I maybe can relate to their situation a little bit. Okay, but these are the things that can happen when you're giving a speech to a group of people that you may not know very well. You never know what's going to happen. Life is a very unpredictable thing, and we can't control everything. Our job is just to do our mission, give our information, and hopefully we teach somebody something, okay? So keep the questions coming, guys.
Okay, Jimmy, one for you. I've used a technique, but maybe this is unkind. I'd say it looks as though our friend Jimmy has fallen asleep again. In other words, embarrassing him. But possibly there are students who are very sensitive, and you shouldn't do this.
Well, you know,
your tough football playing student will take it in his stride, but maybe, especially if it's a student you don't know very well, you know, we have to appreciate that they are adults and they can be sensitive, and they may have given birth to twins the previous night. They've got every reason.
Yeah, they may not have slept. We don't know why they're sleeping. They might have had an emergency. They might be feeling sick or something. But what I don't like to do is publicly shame people. Publicly shaming a person is to basically criticize someone in front of the group. Now, if somebody is doing something that I don't particularly like, and remember, as the teacher, I'm expected to maintain control of that classroom. It's my classroom, and I need to maintain control. And if there's somebody in that classroom that's disrupting the group, it's my job to step in and say, look, wait a second. You know, you can't be doing this. There are some people here that actually want to learn. But usually, if I have a problem with a student, when the class is over, I will say, Mike, I need to talk to you after class, okay? I need you to come up here, okay? Everybody else leaves. They all hear what I said to Mike. They know that Mike is in a little bit of trouble with me. And I think most people don't want to be in trouble with me, okay? I'm not going to beat anybody, but most people don't want to have problems with their instructor, okay? But they know when I point to Mike and say, Mike, you need to stay after class. We need to talk about some things. They got the message. All right?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What have to do speaker when he don't know answer of the question which was asked to him?
Okay. I don't know what. I don't know the answer to that, actually. I don't know. No, joke. I'm kidding. See, the humor doesn't work very well sometimes. Okay. Did you understand his question?
Yes.
His question was, what if the group asks you a question and you don't know the answer? And that does happen. It does happen. I think probably the best thing to say is, look, I don't know. I'm not really sure, but my best guess is this. All right? My best guess is this. All right? You could say, does anybody know the answer to that question? But you run a risk as a teacher, because then you look maybe a little lower in the eyes of your students, all right?
Yes.
And teachers do not want to lose their respect by not knowing an answer, so oftentimes they create an answer, or they change the question. If you don't like the question, just answer another question, okay? I'll tell you what, if I don't know about Ukrainian politicians, but it happens a lot in America, where politicians
All politicians
are asked a question, and they will not answer the question. All right? They will answer another question and sound very intelligent, okay? But I think what you can also do is say, look, that's a good question. I'm not sure I know the answer, but tomorrow I will give you the answer in class. I will look it up. All right? Okay? There's different ways. Yeah, go ahead.
The student can find the answer, and for example, the next time he will make a short report maybe on this topic.
But the student,
Can
be afraid.
I'm flexible. I'm flexible, yeah. Because I think you can go with that any way you want, all right? But there have been times when I said, I don't know the answer, okay?
It's very
You know,
difficult to say that you
yeah.
don't know if you're a teacher.
It is, but your students will respect you. Oh, some students will respect you, all right? Some will. But you run a risk if you say, I don't know. Especially if you're saying, I don't know a lot. Okay? You can get away with it once or twice in a semester, but if it's every question, well, I don't know, I'm just the teacher, I don't know the answer to that question. All right? So you can get away with it once in a while. But you know, even a better question might be, what if they ask you a question that you might be embarrassed to answer? And I'm going to give you an example. This happens all the time. When I go to a group of teenagers, and let's say I'm talking about drug use. I'm talking about, you know, how dangerous it is to smoke cigarettes and to drink while you're driving, and maybe that marijuana can lead to other drugs. What is a common question that teenagers ask?
Have you tried it yourself?
Yeah, have you used drugs yourself? And you better have an answer for that question. Because if you say, I'm not going to answer that question, that isn't going to work with teenagers. Okay? Now, what did Bill Clinton answer? How did Bill Clinton answer that question?
I spoke, but I did not inhale.
Well, he got it.
So what? I can play saxophone very well.
Okay, he can play, yeah, okay. I guess he could answer
it just this way.
Yeah, he could answer that in that way, but actually his answer was correct. Bill Clinton said, when he was asked, have you ever smoked marijuana, his response was, well, I did, but I didn't inhale. In other words, I didn't go, all right, okay, all right. It just, the marijuana smoke was all around his face, but he didn't breathe it in, okay? So again, what would be the point of smoking marijuana if you don't breathe it in, all right? It has no effect, all right? You can ask Mike, right? Yeah, okay. Okay.
Did you have sex with this woman?
Right, and what was his answer? What was his answer?
No.
Well, his answer was, it depends on what sex is, okay? And, you know, so even, you know, Bill Clinton, who is considered to be a gifted, brilliant public speaker, when they sometimes don't exactly answer the question in the best way, all right? It causes more confusion. By the way, Barack Obama said, yeah, I did use marijuana. But I used it when I was a teenager and I had some identity issues. My father was gone, I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, and yeah, I did smoke some marijuana, which was, you know, probably a very legitimate answer. But you run a risk. I'm a marriage counselor. I worked with couples that had marital problems. What would be a question they might have for me?
Have you ever divorced?
Yeah, you know, how's your relationship with your wife? And I say, well, you know, we got a divorce, you know, we were married 18 years and ended up, you know, and you could lose some credibility that way, but I think honesty is the way to go. And if people can't appreciate honesty, then why are we up there? I mean, we should be giving information that is relatively close to the truth, okay? And sometimes people ask us things that we really don't want to answer, but we should. And if we lose a little bit of credibility, then so be it. All right? All right. Other questions as we keep moving here. And actually, we just had this exercise, didn't we? Okay? We have an American friend who is down at the McDonald's at Lukyanovska. Okay? And I tried to give him directions to come here. All right? We didn't want to go get him because he's too old. Okay. So we tried to give him directions. That is a form of public speaking. Okay? So what are the things that we want to keep in mind when we are communicating with somebody? What are some of the keys in communication? And there's a lot of them. But what are some of the things that you guys can think about? In terms of, let's say, getting this guy up from Lukyanovska Metro to here, okay, these are some of the things that we would probably do. We don't want to be on the phone all day. We want to be very succinct and clear. We want to provide landmarks. And going from the Lukyanovska Metro to here is not so easy because there's several different parallel streets. And as Americans, we don't always pronounce the names of those streets very well. This guy's an American, And I guess I must have failed in my public speaking because